And from the darkness came a bright shining light, fire in the night. And the archangel Michael revealed himself to me. I was unafraid. I asked his business. Michael, general of heaven, wielder of the holy flame, said unto me, Son of Adam, son of Eve, thy crime is great, and yet the mercy of my Father is also great. Will you not repent the evil that you have done, and let his mercy wash you clean? And I said to Michael, Not by the one above's grace, but my own will I live, in pride. Michael cursed me, saying, Then as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will fear my living flame, and it will bite deep and savor your flesh. And in the morning Raphael came, on lambent wings, light over the horizon, the driver of the sun, ward of the east. Raphael spoke, saying, Caine, son of Adam, son of Eve, your brother Abel forgives you your sin. Will you not repent and accept the mercy of the Almighty? And I said to Raphael, Not by Abel's forgiveness, but by mine own will I be forgiven. Raphael cursed me, saying, Then for as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will fear the dawn, and the sun's rays will seek to burn you like fire, wherever you hide always. Hide now, for the sun rises to take its wrath on you. But I found a secret place in the earth, and hid from the burning light of the sun. Deep in the earth I slept until the light of the world had hidden behind the mountain of night. When I awoke from my day of sleep, I heard the sound of gentle rushing wings, and I saw the black wings of Uriel draped around me. Uriel, reaper, angel of death, dark Uriel, who dwells in darkness. Uriel spoke to me quietly, saying, Son of Adam, son of Eve, God Almighty has forgiven you your sin. Will you accept his mercy, and let me take you to your reward, no longer cursed? And I said to dark-winged Uriel, Not by God's mercy, but my own will I live. I am what I am. I did what I did, and that will never change. And then, through dread Uriel, God cursed me, saying, Then for as long as you walk this earth, you and your children will cling to darkness. You will drink only blood. You will eat only ashes. You will be always as you were in death, never dying, living on. You will walk forever in darkness. All you touch will crumble into nothing until the last days. I gave a cry of anguish at this terrible curse, and tore at my flesh. I wept blood. I caught the tears in a cup, and I drank them. When I looked up from my drink of sorrow, the archangel Gabriel, gentle Gabriel, Lord of mercy, appeared to me. The archangel Gabriel said unto me, Son of Adam, son of Eve, behold, the mercy of the Father is greater than you can ever know. For even now there's a path open, a road of mercy, and you shall call this road Golconda, and tell your children of it. For by that road they come once again to dwell in the light. And with that the darkness was lifted, like a veil, and the only light was Lilith's bright eyes. Looking around me, I knew that I had awakened. When my energies first surged through me, I discovered how to move like lightning, how to borrow the strength of the earth, how to be as stone. These were like breathing once was to me. Lilith showed me how she hides herself from hunters, how she commands obedience, and how she demands respect. Then, awakening myself further, I found the way to alter forms, the way to have dominion over animals, the way to make my eyes see past sight. Then Lilith commanded that I stop, saying that I had overreached my bounds, that I had gone too far, that I threatened my very essence. She used her powers and commanded me to stop. Because of her power, I heeded her. But deep within me, a seed was planted, a seed of rebellion. And when she turned her face from me, I opened myself up once more to the night, and I saw the infinite possibilities in the stars, and knew that the path of power, a path of blood, was mine for the taking. And so I awakened in me this final path, from which all other paths would grow. With this newest power, I broke the bonds that the Lady of Night put on me. I left the damned queen that evening. Cloaking myself in shadows, I fled the land of Nod, and came at last to a place where not even her demons could find me. Greetings, Cainites. I am Maquette, and welcome back to our bastion of strength and honor and loyalty. Welcome back to our charnel house of faith, where we will celebrate the name of Caine. We'll blend our blood and bring ourselves closer to everything that we can be, freeing ourselves from the antediluvians, stopping ourselves from being able to be bound by the blood of those who would take advantage of us. Down with the ivory tower, hoist up the sword of Caine, and pass around the Volderi cup. Now, as always, I have invited my sire, at least part of him, to participate in this rite, as we do every month, ensuring that our bonds stay as far away as possible, so that the antediluvians cannot control us, as they attempt to do. And so, with that, I bring forward our Volderi cup, and I prepare the blood in the name of Caine. In Caine's name, we bring together our blood to show that we are family, and that we will never fall to the betrayers that are our forefathers. Now, tonight, please add some and pass around. Tonight we are here to continue our look into the paths of enlightenment. I've given you yet a taste of what you could very well turn yourselves into when you reject your humanity completely, but Path of Caine is not for everyone. And the Sabbat would not be the Sabbat if we were only just those of the bloodthirsty sort who are trying to build ourselves up and collect Caine's library. No. That's not why we're all here. We have to honor the various aspects of Caine, and tonight we are going to express our devotion to Caine as we study the Path of Cathari. This path of enlightenment is dedicated to the part of Caine who found his Enoch and built his city in opulence. This is where we revel in abundance of what our powers can get us, what Caine has gifted us, and how we can make it even better. I think that a lot of you may very well fall into this path due to how exquisite it tends to be. We have to understand, though, that we revel in what we can do because we must find those who deserve our fangs. We create new dark angels, as you will, to continue on until Gehenna, which has already come. Gehenna shall last 1,000 years. It's when the antediluvians begin awakening, and they are. That's what the Gehenna War is about. It started. But it doesn't mean that we can't continuously find others to feed from. Thank you. You can savor the loyalty within this cup. And I dedicate myself to you, as you have dedicated yourselves to me. Under the banner of the sword of Caine, may the black hand rise up and choke its enemies. In Caine's name. Now, Path of Cathari. They call us hedonists. They call us indulgers in dark vices. And that's true. But it's not for the reasons they think. We terrify the Camarilla because we revel in what we are. We are monsters. But where there is darkness, there must also be light. And that's what most of the kindred don't understand, is that it has to deal with showing those that we are against what true darkness is, what true revelry is. We are the dark so that the light can shine through. No, when we practice our Path of Cathari and we bring in new members, we teach them. We teach them exactly what this is about. And that is experience. We must experience the vice. You see, when we follow the Path of Cathari, it is up to us to find every type of depravity that we can possibly find, to indulge those dark urges. We need to be those demons that they tell you about in church. We need to be the ones to prove the righteous correct. That's why some of us have honed the Path of Cathari as the path of night. They take it more on a religious bent, focusing in on those who herd the flocks of Caine, where the rest of us just try to make sure that what we can do to the day-to-day people. We are looking for others. That's why we are primarily the recruiters. Can they send the Path of Caine to recruit? No, they'll destroy and eat all of them. No. They send us. They send us to tempt the humans, to find out which ones are food and which ones are better. Because our paths are predestined, you see. And it is up to us to fulfill what Caine has mapped out for us. And to find those brothers and sisters yet to meet the fangs. We are the Cathari. We are the Albiginians. We are the devils of the flesh. Path of Cathari. We are here tonight to discuss the Path of Cathari. I love this path. I think my first real introduction to playing the Path of Cathari was actually with V5, but I had spent a lot of time with individuals who had been on this path. This was mostly the thing that we would find Toreador Anti-Tribu on and things like that, but it's so much deeper And I've actually done a lot of lore digging when it comes to this, not just through the V5 book, but through the other books. And it really is one of those paths of enlightenment that I find are massively misunderstood. Very much the same way as I see the followers of Set. Yes, you're there to tempt humanity. In the Setites' way of looking at things, you are the serpent in the garden. You are offering that apple. But what exactly did that apple give? It gave intelligence. It gave the knowledge of good and evil. Humans were meant in the garden to be ignorant, to be yet more animals in that garden. And when you look at what this is, it's heightening humans to a point where they should not have been to, at least not as of yet. Giving them all the knowledge to let them make their own decisions. And that's where Path of Cathari and the followers of Set, or the ministry, are actually very similar. Because that's exactly what you're doing in Path of Cathari. You are there to indulge in every dark vice that you can possibly think of, that the blood opens up to you. I don't see it as just a sexual sadist thing, where I have seen that a lot of Path of Cathari do fall into that, but it's not all it is. It's about looking for the diamond in the rough. The idea of finding the people who can survive the temptation, who can keep the moral high ground. Those are the individuals that you don't touch. Those are the individuals that are worth keeping around as mortals. And I know that sounds really strange for the Sabbat, but truthfully, they see themselves as, especially those who follow Path of Cathari, or the more honed Path of Night, as dark angels. That you are there to try to make it so that humans go a specific way. In their own demented way, the Sabbat in general think they're superheroes. They really do. They're there to save the world. They're there to save the world for selfish reasons. But they don't want the Antediluvians to take over, because the world's destroyed at that point, right? So when you look at Path of Cathari, you need to have a little bit more of an open mind, where when we're talking about this book, what we're talking about here is what the others see. What the Camarilla and the Anarchs see. The flat, nondescript, two-dimensional monsters that are nothing but fodder for your storytellers. Now, the book states, the premise of the Path of Cathari is for its followers to heed the beast as it drives them to luxuriate in what they are, so they leave no atrocity unperformed. Its followers may come across as callow and hedonistic, indulging in base urges, and surely Cainites on this path do revel in their wicked nature. At its center, however, it's a philosophy of dualistic world in which vampires are one of its expressions of darkness. The damned are, well, damned, and it thus serves them to act like it. In the Sabbat, this path is the most numerous followers of all of the paths. It's easy for a vampire whose humanity has been destroyed by shovelheading to adopt. It at once justifies and encourages the horrors they have suffered. Its higher echelons and spiritual epiphanies often elude these Cainites, however. For those who are the true paragons of this path, the philosophy proposes a hierarchy of sins as elaborate as a Solomotic goatee. Even though the ruck and run of the Albiginians may seem like caterwauling demons, every villainous serves a purpose, whether or not the individual purveyors of sin understand it. The devils of the flesh do not starve the beast. They bathe in it in excess. This right here is one of those things where I think it's described fairly well. Now, the more I dig into this book, the Sabbat, the Black Hand, the more I find in it that it is what it is. It's a monster manual. And the more I dig into the player's guide that I've been, preaching about, which we will go into tonight, the Black Hand playing the Sabbat book, I do find things that I don't quite like. I have been finding things that I actually do disagree with. And I have said in previous videos that I'm very excited about these, but I haven't read through them. But I am getting through them. And there are things that just don't sit well with me for one reason or another. And again, we will get with them as time comes. But the whole point of what I have been saying is stated right here. It is stated in this book. And that is, for the true paragons of the path, the philosophies offer a hierarchy of sins that is massively elaborate. That this is the most common of the Sabbat paths. But most of those shovelheads, and I gotta say that I cannot stand the word shovelheading. I really can't. I hate the word shovelheading in this book. But most are not getting properly taught how to practice this path. You have a army of ignorant vampires running around. Toddlers with superpowers. And this path right here on the outside is telling them to indulge in every facet of darkness they can. To be the devils. But they're not telling them why. Now, I believe that the Path of Night in old storylines came first. That it was actually already a path that was being followed by Clan Lasombra, and it got passed down into the Sabbat. And truthfully, I believe that the Path of Cathari is from the Path of Night, not the other way around. And the Path of Night, it's not Path of Cathari. Because you are being evil to show others what they need to fight against. And that is what Path of Cathari is. You are gaining more and more individuals into this path through temptation. That's absolutely true. And those are needed. But it's to find those who cannot be broken, to make sure that they fulfill their purpose of bringing light into the world of darkness. Now, this book states that the ethics of this path are experience every vice being damned affords, from instilling fear in others to performing acts of cruelty to ceding control to the beast. So in other words, riding the wave of frenzy is definitely something that these individual vampires enjoy doing. The next one states, one's role as a creature outside mortal morality is predestined. Accept it and fulfill one's purpose and lead others into damnation or destruction. So again, this is something that the others see. This is something that the Anarchs and the Camarilla see. And saying that they would not notice that the Path of Cathari's followers are sparing the pure. Why would they notice that? They would focus on the mounds of bodies that are left behind, or the mass embraces that occur. That's going to be what they focus on. But here, it even says that one's role as a creature outside mortal morality is predestined. So of course you would be looking for those that are predestined to join your pack, whose fate it is to become Cainites. And the last one is indulge in every temptation. Give oneself wholly to the wiles of the beast. Now, the reason for that is because you cannot truly tempt without knowing all of the vice. And the Setites feel the same way. The ministry look at it exactly the same. I really do see the followers of Set being really good on this path specifically, especially when it's taken outside of the cookie cutter monster area. In Chronicles, followers of the Path of Cathari are not subtle unless operating in a role of spying or infiltration. And the vitae they host, as well as the unlives they lead, are punctuated by glorious vulgarity. From a hedonistic orgy where Cainites gorge on drugged vessels, to blood-soaked rituals held in desecrated holy places, conducted in open mockery of any number of faiths, Albiginians enjoy events profaning themselves and the mortals who ultimately suffer in their wake. They will gleefully play to stereotypes of worldly evils, presenting themselves as covens of shrieking witches, lustful degenerates, devil's night vandals, and so on. As a sect, the Sabbat has little reservation about using the Albiginians as fodder for their various violent ends. The Albiginians are generally aware of this and don't readily disagree with it. They can always make more, and whether they survive or meet final death in any endeavor is already a matter of predestination. The Path's philosophy implies a place and a purpose to every vampire's actions, making every base action or self-destructive impulse meaningful. And of course, a zealot assured of their place in hell is terrifying to those who run afoul of them, making them effective shock troops against unsuspecting mortals unknowingly in the path of the Gehenna War. Away from the war's front, Albiginians are great tempters, dealers, and fixers who relish in the opportunity to debase the virtuous, or even the non-virtuous. The Sabbat isn't normally heavily invested in intricate schemes and webs of debts, but ironically, the Infectious Albiginians often have any number of mortals, and even kindred, who owe them favors for various delights provided in the past. Followers of this path may even give themselves the flush of life to better enjoy the fleshy interlude, particularly if they splash about in someone else's misery afterward. So this just said that they can look human. They can use blush of life, unlike most people who would be on paths can actually succeed in. They have almost like a chameleon cover to blend in with their surroundings. And a lot of what they say here in Chronicles is a very interesting way of putting this, because they are fatalists. These are individuals who believe that they are put here for a specific reason, and they should have blind trust in their leaders. So if their priest or bishop or archbishop or whoever actually is in charge of the Sabbat right now, because this book doesn't give us much on it, tells them that they need to do something which is going to get them killed, they are going to follow it. They are going to put themselves in that dangerous space that is going to get them killed, because they have a place and they are fulfilling their purpose. Next it says disciplines. Many followers of this path excel at the physical disciplines, the better to perform monstrous feats that set them apart from frail mortals. As well, due to their natures as hedonists, infiltrators, and tempters, Cathari find ample opportunity to use aspects, obfuscate, and presence. So in other words, you've got aspects, obfuscate, and presence, and potent celerity and fortitude. Those are your things. And you can imagine the ways that you can use potent celerity and fortitude in ways of tempting people and acting out vices, because these individuals have the ability to get in there and just corrupt. And having presence, and that's going to help. That really is. To try to get humans to do things that they typically would not do. I think this book is well written. As I said, for what it is, it's a monster manual. And it's fun. It's a great book if you need a quick look at the spot for monsters. I know in my game right now, we just got done dealing with Caine's choir, which was a pack of Sabbat that were all on Path of Cathari, because in V5 they really stressed that packs work better if they are all on the same path. And truthfully, I could not agree more. I really wish that had been a thing when I played Sabbat in the past. But it also, with the way that we did things, it would not have worked quite as well, due to the fact that we had Sabbat of all different ages and stuff coming together from strange places and forming packs out of necessity. I know my character was like a 500-year-old Zamitzi who came in, and there was like a 600 or 700-year-old La Sombra who came in, and then there were like neonates of all these different things, and we all came in survivors of packs that had fallen due to an attack that we were doing on a city. So having us all come in on the same path just didn't really quite make sense. Plus the idea of the infighting that happened due to our different outlooks on life as Cainites really did add to the drama. But I can also see where it would be better if the whole pack was on the same path, where everybody at least had things on the same mind. Where the idea that the Cainite who's going to be the most in trouble if anything goes wrong is really the pack priest, who is now acting as priest and Ductus in this V5 system. I really enjoyed playing Path of Cathari. We did a lot of really fun stuff. Our Vauldery was done with shot glasses, and I tried, like, I had it so that like the main link to staying human for this individual pack was music. And it was a very interesting play out, and we didn't kill them. I didn't actually end up killing the players. The only one who died was Damien, and that was really his. It was bad. It was bad. I can't say timing. It was just a bad thing that he ended up using one of the Cult of Shalim gifts at the wrong time, because in my mind the Sabbat would see that as infernalism. You're using a power that comes from basically a dark god demon at that point, so yeah, it's infernalism. And I don't know, we just had a really, really good time, and I'm glad that the pack survived, and so did the coterie, because that means I can bring them back in later to really mess with them, which I do absolutely plan on doing. Now, the other one, sorry if I'm going to be looking to the side here, I've got Path of Cathari open for the Black Hand playing the Sabbat book, which was written by Khaldun Khalil and his, or Khaldun Khalil and his team, which again, it's worded well, it's brought up very well as a fully functioning playing Sabbat thing. If you like V5, it fits in really well. My issue is that I'm learning other things about the way this book was written and why certain things were thrown in and stuff, and I'm finding myself disagreeing with some things. But the structure itself is what I like. In this book it states, the followers of Cathari make up the majority of the Sabbat, and they exult in feeding the beast's cravings for blood, lust, and violence. To their enemies, in detractors, the Albiginians are hedonists on their way to assail. But the path's deeper mysteries instill a respect for fate in their role as vampire agents of the divine plan for corruption. It is their place to feast on the material world and tempt others unworthy of the spiritual world to do the same. Others call them devils, but they see themselves as the angels of the lost demiurge. The embrace was their fate, and they constantly seek out new potential worthy to embrace into their ranks. These Cainites believe the antediluvians wish to shatter this preordained cycle of fate by consuming all things profane and divine. This is a perversion of the role Caine was chosen to perform, and when he returns to his throne, he shall reveal a new kingdom to his faithful children. So these individuals actually believe that they are doing work to make the world continue on in their own way. Yes, they are focusing on the dark, but that's because you cannot have light without darkness. It does say for roleplay tips, the Cathari prefer the flashy style that draws attention or shows off their material possessions. Diamond grills, designer clothes, expensive cars, and our favorite accessories. They are often loud and talkative Cainites who depend on sharply honed social skills to draw in their victims. They rarely keep retainers, and mortals don't survive their mistreatment for long. That's one of the big reasons why I chose Path of Cathari when it came to my pack that I built in the game, because I had played Noah as a player character for about a year, and he was just flashy. He acted out Path of Cathari even before Path of Cathari was a thing in my knowledge bank for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. He was just all about the flash, and if somebody was going to be injured by him, he was going to enjoy it. He did really messed up stuff on humanity, and I could really see him in Path of Cathari when I read through it. The nicknames for Path of Cathari is Albiginians, Cathari, and Devils. Now, in the book Sabbat the Black Hand, it says that they're called the Devils of the Flesh. This just shortens it to Devils. The Takbur, which is, again, their spiritual outcry, such as when somebody says in his name or Jesus Christ or anything like that. It's the spiritual battle cry, pretty much. Our Praise Caine, the flesh is false, our souls are eternal, turn the wheel, or death to the false fathers, the antediluvians. So these are things that they typically yell when they are in battle. These are the battle cries. The Priesthood. The spiritual leadership of the Cathari are paradoxically organized, but eschew a formal hierarchy instead of deferring to members who have proven their spiritual purity through acts of devotion or contemplation. While followers of Cathari indulge all of their desires and see the 7 deadly sins as a weekend checklist, the priests of the path tend to an almost monastic asceticism, fasting from blood, prolonged vows of silence, and even refraining from crimes against their humanity are all acts of deprivation that Albiginian priests regularly use to spiritually purify themselves. The highest among these devoutes are known as the Perfecti, and Cathari often seek these holy vampires out when they wish to progress on the path or find deeper meaning in their unlives. The clergy of the Cathari prefer informal titles unless they have attained the prestige of a Perfecti. They usually reject all appellations other than priest. In their vitae, they use whatever language is most common among the packmates and prefer ritual implements that are overtly occult in nature, such as goat heads, stone altars, pentagrams, blood chalices, and curvy daggers. Devils usually lead nomadic packs and see the Gehenna War as a chance to prove their devotion and to call Caine back from occultation, so that he may reshape the natural order and shatter the wheel of fate. Priests of the Path of Cathari are usually willing to step down in favor of a packmate they see as worthy. but will plot and scheme to block the ascent of an unworthy rival. So in other words, they are more interested in the concept of who is better at that job in this. And I do really like the way that this is put off, because it does show that they go through periods of almost like Lent, where they give things up so that they can purify themselves. But as somebody who has practiced periodic fasting for religious purposes, when you get that back, when you're allowed to indulge in what you've given up, it can be mind-blowingly satisfying. I know that I've fasted on food, and just the simplest meals can be just so amazing after that fasting period is over. So in my mind, those individuals of the priesthood who are putting themselves through that kind of thing have reached a level of pleasure delaying, where they hold things off to the point where the anticipation is so high, when they finally get it, it's the best thing in the world. Now, on this one, in this system, for this homebrew, it also says that people who are in the Sabbat do get touchstones. And it does say that the Cathari usually connect their convictions to the creation rites, the blood feast, and the Vaulderie Rite, because their touchstones are the rituals that the Sabbat partake in. So the creation rites, which are the rituals that a shovelhead or a newly embraced Sabbat would have to perform to be considered a true Sabbat. The blood feast is exactly what it sounds like. It's a ritual of thanksgiving. And then there's also the Vaulderie Rite, which is, pass around the cup and do the thing. The fact that it talks about how the, going back to the other paragraph, sorry. The fact that it talks about how the Cathari love their regalia when it comes to rituals makes a lot of sense, because these are individuals who are all about the show. It's all about putting it out there and making it entertaining, because a ritual in itself is play. You are trying to bring out that mentality in you that's enjoying things to spark devotion. And it makes a lot of sense that the shinier the thing, the bigger the thing, the more cryptic the thing, the more messed up the thing is, in some Path of Cathari, is why you would have these rituals that partake in all of these ancient occult symbols. As somebody who is active in my pagan community, also, I get it. I really, really do. I can't be one of those people who is offended by the fact that it says the Path of Cathari uses pentagrams. It's a powerful symbol. It's a very, very powerful symbol. And the fact that they use it, probably because their symbol is the goat's head, and when you flip a pentagram upside down, it's a goat's head. I don't know. It's one of those things. I can't find myself ever really being offended by that kind of thing, because it is about the pageantry of the rituals. Now, there is a little thing on here for frenzy. The devils only resist hunger frenzy when keeping up a mortal facade. Otherwise, they ride the wave and attack the most vulnerable target to demoralize their foes. So in other words, they attack the weak. It's obvious why they would do that. So, path compulsion is exhibitionist. For those of you who do not know, when you are playing a character from this book, from this setting, this homebrew setting, you get a choice when you have a compulsion activated. If you get a clan compulsion, you can choose to enact your path compulsion instead. And it is 100% the player's choice, whichever one is more fitting to what is going on. Theirs, like I said, is exhibitionist. The Albiginians expose their vampiric nature for all to see in a grand display and demand attention. subservience, and fear from all mortals present for the rest of the scene. The devil suffers a -3 dice penalty to any action not involved in cowing a mortal audience. Again, it's regalia, it's play, and it makes a lot of sense. I really do quite enjoy that kind of thing. Now, this system for the Sabbat does not go into what disciplines the paths will give you. This one here actually has different ways of doing it for your predator type, where you get a fixated discipline and then a choice of discipline. So they actually get extra disciplines than your standard vampires do, because that's the way they did it. I like it very much. I do think that the idea of the physical disciplines, as well as the obfuscate and aspects and presence, makes a lot of sense, and it still kind of helps me to at least put thought into that kind of thing. I do know that when we get into the Path of Cathari advantages, presence does take a little bit of a role, but we will come to that in just a second. Right now we're on convictions, because you have to have convictions. It says that the Cathari prefer convictions that indulge their vices, cast mortals as victims, and see the physical world as a place beyond redemption. So the examples of those are rules are meant to be broken, indulge every temptation, seek out and test the worthy. That one right there really pushes my whole idea of what the ministry are when it comes to this kind of thing, that they are there to test the worthy. They're not just there to break them down. They're there to test them. And I can also see a vampire losing their damn mind and viciously attacking somebody. But that would be somebody who's not good at being on Path of Cathari. Punish the unworthy. Never harm the spiritually pure or the innocent. And you can't change fate. Destiny is everything. Again, Path of Cathari is all about searching for the diamond in the rough. The person who has faith is the person that should be released into the world to continue their purpose, their fight. But you are there to fight over the souls of those who are unworthy. Now we've got our path advantages, which I will go into detail on, because we're actually using some of these in my game right now, due to the fact that both the Gangrel Gabriel and the Toreador Justin. I'm sorry, I'm doing that because anti-tribute. They're not what they're not path, or they're not part of a clan, so it really doesn't matter. But it says that the Albiginians enjoy crossing lines and pushing others beyond the edge of their own comfort. They have a preternatural sense for what their enemies hold dear, and few Sabbat can mimic the living as well as the Cathari. That really pushes in on the whole that people who are on Path of Cathari, that Cainites that are on Path of Cathari, are able to use Blush of Life, unlike individuals who are on other paths. That I actually don't remember at all from the other systems, and I kind of want to go back and read the older versions of this path to see if that was there. This brings us to the Path of Cathari advantages, and path advantages are very, very interesting, because the way that they work is depending on how many touchstone convictions you have dictates how many points in path advantages you can have, which is it's a very interesting thing. It also says that if you lose that, you could very well lose your advantages. Now, the way these are set up is 1 to 3, obviously. So if you have a 1-point advantage, it means that you could take a 2-point advantage, equaling out the 3 points in advantages. If you have a 3-point advantage, it means that's all you can have because you've got the 3 points invested in it, which have to be equal to your convictions. That being the way that the mechanics work for the path advantages, I'm a fan of this. But let's go ahead and hop into this. Infectious Desire is a 1-trait path advantage here. It says that the pack's very presence has an intoxicating and morally deleterious effect on mortals. So in other words, it deletes their morals over time. While it is rare for humans to live long in the presence of a Cathari pack, those that are exposed to them for prolonged periods find their inhibitions quickly stripped away. Mortals find their desires beginning to match those of the Cathari over the course of a scene, and their blood resonance will turn to sanguine. So, in other words, they start becoming more lustful. They start becoming more greedy. They start becoming more just devoted to the luxurious practices of those on Path of Cathari. You basically start switching the humans over to being on Path of Cathari themselves. A level 2 path advantage is called Angels of Destiny. Embracing never causes stains or humanity loss for your pack. Cainites on Cathari can reduce their stains by 1 if they embrace a particularly perverse mortal. So in other words, you do not take stains for the murder of a human as you typically would if you are embracing, if you're bringing them into the fold. And one step more, if you find somebody who really deserves to be on Path of Cathari as a vampire, you actually heal a stain, which is pretty freaking cool. I really enjoy that because it's one of the things that shoves the mechanic into your face, and that's in this book. You still have to contend with your humanity as a Sabbat character. You can be on a path, but that doesn't have anything to do with your humanity. Another level 2 is Strike at the Heart. By observing a Cainite's interaction with a mortal, packmates can sense if the mortal is a touchstone. Cathari often use this power to blackmail their enemies or sniff out Sabbat still clinging to their humanity. So you can look at somebody, you can observe their interactions with a human and know if that human is a touchstone. That is very, very useful. Now, I would be a little bit strict on the wording with this, that it means that if you are going to tell that the human is a touchstone, they have to be talking to the vampire who they are the touchstone for. They can't just look at a random human and go, touchstone. It has to be directly connected to that individual. Then there is the level 3s. The level 3s are actually kind of interesting. You have level 3 Angels of Desire. All packmates can buy presents as if it was a clan discipline. Once per story, when the pack priest performs the Vauldery, they can place a beneficial boon upon the entire pack. As long as the packmate has the proper path resonance, being sanguine, they gain a +2 dice bonus on any roll to resist presence powers for the rest of the session. So not only does presence count as an in-clan discipline to your pack, if somebody has this, but it also says that after a Vauldery, if the priest chooses to do it, after a Vauldery, they get a +2 bonus on all rolls to resist being manipulated by presence for that session. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. And I love the fact that these people who are so ingrained in debauchery are basically, it's creating, you're jaded by that point. You are not affected by others' presence as easily as they had hoped. And then there's the level 3 of Party Animal, which is just a lot of fun. Packmates with the proper path resonance, again, sanguine, can use Blush of Life as if they had humanity of 8. While under the effects of Blush of Life, They suffer no penalties to their roles when interacting with mortals. So you look human. That's exactly what the other book said that is canon, but didn't give like details or mechanics because it's an antagonist book. Antagonists can just do what the antagonists do to, you know, make them antagonists. No, it makes a lot of sense as a monster manual. Saying that something can do something without actually having to express the mechanics of it, it does make sense from a storytelling standpoint. Unfortunately, I just wish that it was canon that Sabbat were active, and I think this book so far is the best that I have seen. Now, I haven't read all of them out there, but it is the best one that I have seen as far as bringing the Sabbat into a playable ability, playability. And then the last thing that it says is path resonance. We've said it a couple times. It's sanguine. The idea of a path resonance being sanguine is just that tends to be what they hunt the most. So anyway, this has been a pretty in-depth look at our Path of Cathari, and both in character for canon and also in character as in playing with the Black Hand playing the Sabbat book that came out. I'm probably going to end up putting out a video at some point in time, most likely a Vampire Bite, that discusses the things that I do not like about this book, because I realize that I have been very, I don't know, I sound like I'm getting paid, which I am not. I think it sounds like I'm very one-sided on this, and I think it's my excitement of being able to play the Sabbat and finding a system that I really think is written well, and not reading the whole book first has judged that. So I do want to get into that so you guys can see my point and counterpoint of that. But the Path of Cathari, not wanting to hop off that subject, the Path of Cathari is the most prominent path of enlightenment within the V5 system, both for your NPC Sabbat and for those of you who are playing Sabbat as player characters. It should be the most prominent, and I think that really shows how much of an impression Clan La Sombra has really left on the Sabbat, even though they're not technically involved in it any longer. I can't wait to see where we go into as we start dealing with the other ones, because the next path that we're going to be looking at is Death and Soul, which is Path of Death and the Soul is one of my all-time favorites. Of course, now there's only like 5 paths that are listed, and the other ones seem to be either things that they have absorbed into each other or considered profane paths, which kind of makes sense. We'll figure it out, because I plan on going all over all of the Path of Enlightenments as we go. But I am Maquette, and thank you for joining me with this midnight mass and sharing another glass with me. I will see you next time when the moon is dark and we are ready to go over the Path of Death and the Soul. Happy hunting.